Hello, everyone. So, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about anime. Randomly picking an anime off of my anime list. Let's see what we get. Number 179, and that is Mobile Suit Gundam. Well, what a better show to pick than the first Gundam anime. So, Mobile Suit Gundam. It originally aired in the year 1979 with a total of 43 episodes. The show was created by the legendary writer Yoshiyuki Tomino, who is coming off of shows like Zanbot 3 and Daitron. Mobile Suit Gundam is supposed to be a departure of the Super Robot era with more gray areas instead of the black and white good versus evil of the 70s. The story behind Mobile Suit Gundam is in the year UC 0079, humanity has moved into space due to overpopulation. The furthest colony declared itself the Principality of Zeon and waged a war of independence. With the introduction of the mobile suit, the Principality of Zeon overpowered the Earth Federation forces. With the war raging on, both sides have lost half their respective populations. As a response, the Earth Federation began developing mobile weapons of their own. This was known as Project V, which introduced the iconic trio, gun tank, gun cannon, and the ever-popular RX-78-2 Gundam. In the confusion, the young man Amuro Ray hops into the Gundam, and he's able to take out the two attacking Zakus. As a direct result of the battle, the military crew of the prototype ship White Base have been critically injured or killed off in the attack, leaving young kids, rookies, and volunteers to man the ship and survive the war. So basically, they all got drafted. And so the story itself follows the crew of the White Base as they take on the forces of Zeon in both land, space, air, and even the oceans themselves. The series itself kinda becomes something of a Monster of the Week type show, with each week having a new type of mobile suit for Amuro and the crew of White Base to take on. However, the mobile suit action is only half the story, as the other half focuses on the characters themselves. So there are a lot of characters in Mobile Suit Gundam, and I'm not going to go through each and every one, just a couple of them, just to get the idea of what to expect and who to see. The main character of the show is Amuro Ray, the pilot of the RX-78-2 Gundam. And initially, he got into it for survival and to help out the crew, but once he really realized this was combat, it started to weigh on him, and he didn't feel comfortable piloting the Gundam much longer. However, a few bright slaps, and before long, he was a willing and able pilot. There are parts to Amuro Ray's character that really stick out and definitely change the trope of, well, these are death robots we're piloting, and my life is on the line here. However, I do feel it adds to his character a lot. The next major character I like to focus on is Captain Bright Noah. So just like how Amuro was forced to become the Gundam pilot, Bright Noah was a cadet who was forced to become the captain of the White Base due to the recent attack on Site 7. And with so, the responsibilities of both protecting the base and his crew became his priority. And in doing so, he had to make sure everyone, including Amuro, was up to the task, thus introducing his signature Bright Slaps. Captain Bright Noah has to be my personal favorite of the show just because he has to put up with pretty much all this stuff and listening and dealing with a crew that either doesn't want to fight, doesn't care to fight, or are too inexperienced to put up with the major overall conflict. The next one I would like to talk about is Sayla Mass. This character has a lot going to her, and I really don't want to talk much about her just because, well, honestly, it gets spoiled in episode 1, but I rather you, the viewer, discover her secrets and what goes on in her life on your own. However, I will say she is one of the better characters, and she is willing to take up the mantle of piloting the Gundam when Amuro is. Now on to the quote-unquote villain side. We have the Zabi family. So I'm going to talk about them as a group just because in the beginning they're the ones who kind of initiate the conflict, while in the latter half of the show we do see them more developed as characters and individuals. Essentially though, they aren't really focused on except for one or two of them at the beginning, and it isn't until that halfway point that we start seeing them as their individual characters. But they are a driving force of the show, and they are definitely characters to keep an eye on. They help set the stage and the narrative, as well as a driving force for the motivations of the top character we're going to talk about next. So if you're a Gundam fan of any kind, you know where we're going. We're talking about the legendary Garmazabi. Okay, I'm just kidding. So here we have Char Aznavour. This character is probably one of the more popular and definitely one of the characters that has taken a life of their own out of the Gundam series, which each and every Gundam show has their own version of said character. Char Aznavour's ambitions and goals are much more than just simply defeating Amuro Ray. They're much bigger and heavily go into the show's plotline and overall premise. In fact, really the whole war is more just a means to get what he wants done. And in doing so, Char Aznavour has definitely cemented himself as being one of the more interesting and more well-versed characters in all of Gundam. Having made a name for himself, Char Aznavour is also known as the Red Comet. He pilots red mobile suits, and they are known to go 3 times faster than the standard mobile suits. Without going into much spoilers for Char Aznavour, I will leave off with this. If you like the character and want to know more about him, I highly recommend checking out Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin. That anime series has definitely taken off with explaining Char's ambitions, his goals, and why he does what he does in the original anime. Mobile Suit Gundam is definitely a coming-of-age story. We have the protagonists being young, inexperienced, and thrown into a battle that they don't fully understand. The show can arguably be split into 2 halves, the first half and the second half. The first half is more consistent of establishing the characters, building up the overall narrative, and giving the overall impression of what is going on in this world, who's who, and where they're going. While the second half is being more of the grand finale of the entire series. While up to this point, we've had characters come in and out of the series, we've had the laydown of what the show's about, how the mechanics of the series works, and how the Federation has been doing all they can to fend off the Zeon forces. With the Monster of the Week style up to this point being able to introduce new mobile suits, new mobile weapons, and new characters that help both grow and develop Amuro Ray and White Base, we see a sudden change by the second half of the series. What was once a 1-episode bad guy is now a mass-produced army. What was once a character-driven general is now more of a generic, here's a fleet of bad guys to take out. And what was once just the lone Gundam and his team fighting against all odds has now become an army of mass production Gundams fighting the army of Zeon. I would have to say this change takes place at about the time when the crew of the Right Base make it to Jaburo. It is here where we are introduced to the gyms, and we get to see the first full-on battle, where all the Monster of the Week type mobile suits who are introduced up to this point are now all in one massive battle, taking on the Earth Federation, trying to take out their military base. And it is here we are shown Gundam being backed up by the Earth Federation's mass-produced mobile suits, the GEMs. Up to this point, character development has been more or less the characters trying to come up with their goals, reasons, and overall motivations to partake in this war. After this point, though, the character motivations have pretty much been set in stone, and everyone has their own reason to be in this war and has a reason to fight. So, despite how great the show is, or how much fans like it, looking back on it and looking at Gundam's success nowadays, at the time the show really didn't do that well. In fact, it was even shortened down to 43 episodes, and it was on the chopping block for cancellation basically right out of the gate. And because of that, though, Gundam nearly faded away out of existence. Until Gunpla showed up. That's right, those little plastic model kits that you see at almost every anime convention, store, and so on. These model kits really saved the series. While they weren't exactly the most detailed or out there model kits, the low price point and ease of getting a hold of with the unique designs was enough to get people to go out and buy them. Mostly the older teenage to young adult audience, which was Gundam's intended audience at the time. So because of this boost in popularity thanks to the model kits, the anime was saved, and so money went in, production happened, and we had the recap movies. So this compilation movie, it's a trilogy of the Mobile Suit Gundam series. It basically takes the original anime and breaks it up into 3 different films, which honestly is probably the better way to watch the series. Now there are 2 main reasons why to do this. The first main reason is, and this is kind of spoilers, there was a flashback in Char's counterattack and even in Unicorn where we have an iconic scene being portrayed. And it's because of this change of fighters that they're using that it's believed that the movies are the actual canonical start to the series instead of the TV show. The other reason is the movies are actually a lot more easier to watch. Tomino and his crew went back and streamlined the series entirely, taking out parts that they didn't feel were necessary from the former half and focusing more on the important parts in the latter, making the show kind of like, alright, this is more of a rough draft to what we're going on later on, and that really helped boost the popularity and the ease of watching it for the series. As well, the animation and production are way above than what they were in the original one, so all the crazy animations, weird stuff aren't really present in the movie. That's not to say they don't show up, but there's less of them and it's more of a controlled environment. Then a few years we had the first sequel, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, and then it just snowballed from there. More and more Gundam came out until nowadays where Mobile Suit Gundam is one of the most popular shows that came out of Japan. So where would you go to watch this? For a good time now it was difficult to find it because Bandai Entertainment actually left America and took most of the Gundam franchise with it. However, things are different now, and Right Stuff is probably the most preferred method of getting a hold of this. Right Stuff has a good amount of the Gundam series, preferably though, or in this case rather, they have the original Mobile Suit Gundam TV series and the compilation movies. So you get to pick which one do you want. You can be like me and watch the anime, or you can be like almost everyone else and watch the movies. The other alternative would be to check out Gundam Info, the official YouTube channel for Mobile Suit Gundam. Right now they are airing their Gundam Build Diver series, but every now and then they will upload the original stuff or movies or episodes from older Gundam shows, so do keep them in mind. The Gundam franchise has been going on for a long time and is currently up on its 40th anniversary, making it one of the longest anime series out there. Gundam really has boosted in popularity, especially in the last few years. Even now, for the 40th anniversary, the movie Char's Counterattack is being played in theaters within the next few weeks or so. And honestly, it's probably, if you want, why not now, jump on in. The Gundam series is long and vast, and really there are too many shows to count. Spin-offs, prequels, adaptations, so much to go off of. However, if you know where to start, you'll definitely have a good time. Maybe one day I'll dive into the AU stuff and talk about the spin-offs, but for right now, if you want to start with the OG Gundam, I'll say I would go for it. It's the cornerstone of the series. It lays the groundwork for not just Gundam, but for really anything in the Mobile Suit Gundam series, or any mech really. It's a good entry point. Sure, the animation may be dated here and there, but really, it's part of the aesthetic of the show. And honestly, if you do stick with the original Gundam, start there, you open the door to its sequels like Zeta Gundam and Double Zeta. You have the whole Universal Century timeline to pick from. And also, if you're one of those people who watched Gundam Unicorn and had no idea what the backstory they were talking about, it definitely helps there too. So, that's all I have to say about Mobile Suit Gundam. Hopefully this helps you decide if you want to check out the series or not. And if so, great. If not, well, maybe the next show I'll talk about, we'll get into that one. But either way, this has been Zero Convoy, and thanks for coming by. Hopefully I'll be able to keep this thing up, and we'll see where it goes from there.